Amazing. Thanks for having me on, Paul. Hello, everyone. So going to get stuck straight into this. So we're looking at using AI with e-commerce product description pages and how we can continue to win clicks and push conversions through clients, brands that we work with. So just to give, how do I move through these, Paul? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So quick context and some stat drops about me. Left the 9 to 5 in 2018, where I started freelancing with e-commerce brands. Generated over 100 million for e-commerce brands, built my own personal brand to 100k plus followers. I also co-founded a fragrance brand 2 years ago in the UK, and we turned that into a 7-figure brand in under 2 years. So I understand both the importance of winning clicks, but also from a business perspective and making sure that leads to revenue, because at the end of the day, that's all matters for e-commerce brands. So a quick look at what we're covering today: state of e-commerce, the slice of the pie we can get, using AI in your marketing stack, what search engines are looking for now, actionable tips you can take away and use on your product pages, and how we see the future of e-commerce. Not looking in a crystal ball, but we're getting pretty clear signals with what Shopify, Google, etc. are doing today. So what the tips I'm giving is what I've been using for clients on my own brand. More recent win for a client, looking at Google Shopping Feed and how we can do on-page work for product pages that leads to impressions, clicks, but more importantly, revenue. So a quick look at the market. So Shopify has said there will be 6 to 7 trillion generated globally this year, meaning e-commerce is huge and people are spending online, and there's no reason why brands that we work with cannot take sales from that. It's no secret that people are searching on tools like Gemini, GPT, and trying to understand products, compare products, look at what to buy, look at how to buy, when to buy, etc. If you don't know, recently Walmart pulled from ChatGPT. We look at there were a 4% seller fee from selling in ChatGPT, which is questionable depending what niche you're in as a brand. When we look at spending, can we afford, if we're paying on paid ads already, we're squeezing our margins, we're paying Shopify fees, do we have an extra 4% to pay within ChatGPT? And then also on top of that, I see this is more 50 billion now, but there's 50 billion product listings in Google Shopping Graph, meaning there's huge opportunity, but it's very competitive to get featured in them top 5, 3, 1 product, to make sure that you're winning that customer click and they come into your store. So Google's Universal Commerce Protocol, we'll call it UCP, is basically how agents will be doing shopping, and Google will be feeding that product and product data for them to do that and allowing people to check out directly in Google. This is already happening. Personally, I won't be letting agents do my shopping, maybe milk bin bags, but I won't be letting all my shopping automate. But it's where Google is pushing, and it highlights the importance of getting product pages ready for this and ready for how you win clicks in UCP. So what this means now for e-commerce brands, Shopify brands, is you have an opportunity to optimize your store, optimize your user journeys, optimize product pages, or else risk losing to brands that are feeding the right data through product pages and winning clicks and winning conversions and keeping them customers with their brands. Because we're at this stage now where this is happening. Product grids, you've seen it in yourself when you go to Google, you'll search for a product, ChatGPT is pushing it, and it's making sure that we're featured every time that a customer searches for a product that we're selling organically and not just paid. So again, people are searching. We can all agree probably we all use AI, and we question whether that's booking a plane flight, whether it's buying new running trainers, a new jacket. We try and understand, how can we buy and question reviews around them rather than just looking at a single product page. So 2025, 693% year-on-year traffic pushed to retail sites. So you can imagine this holiday season getting into October, November, December is going to They're absolutely huge for the amount of AI traffic, consumers doing comparison on AIs, and what you can do to win them clicks. So I've seen on average, 10 to 60% in 6 months with getting the right feed quality, sending out the right signals, and making sure we're feeding Google LLMs the right data through product pages. So we all probably have a personal tool. There's questions with pricings with them. My personal favorite at the moment is Claude. I just think this tool is insane in terms of what you can do with it and how easy it makes this for the general marketer to question data such as Google Ads, Shopify data, revenue data, and come up with ideas rather than being non-tech savvy and struggling, or that typical agency model where an agency might feed you an end of the month report. This is your numbers. Instead of that, you can get day-to-day questions and actually know what's happening with your revenue. Just the elephant in the room about Claude replacing marketing teams and people worried about the jobs. My thoughts with it is, if AI can give you 10x the power and capability, why not empower every member of your team to do that instead of trying to replace them and do it all yourself? We're looking at scaling here, scaling brands. So give that power through AI to each member of your team. Make sure you're pushing each member of your team to learn about it, build automations, build systems, and get ahead of competitors now before people do catch on. When we look at the market adoption, some brands are not even using AI at all. So there's a great opportunity now to get ahead of competitors. Some of the use cases I'm using it for is plugging it into like Search Console data, paid data, Klaviyo, GA4. Quick story, we recently did an audit using Claude, and one of our paid accounts, the paid agency, actually left one of the campaigns off and they didn't know about it. It was off for 8 days. Lost X amount of revenue. I'd probably say we pulled back around 15, 20K English, just by them not picking it up and Claude saying, what the hell's going on with your data? Go and take a look at that now. Your campaign's been off for like 8, 9 days. You're losing revenue fast. So it's just use cases like that where I make it a daily occurrence now. So every morning, when I jump on the laptop, I'll just say to Claude, give me a full rundown across all the channels, and it'll just come up with ideas. And then we get into the product pages. So you can get really niche here and say, right, what is our top selling products? What are the customer's journeys, for example, in GA4? How are customers finding these? Where's the drop-off point? When you're looking at a conversion rate, it's right, what's the dwell time on these products? This product has a lot of traffic, people are dropping off really quick. Okay, that becomes of importance to fix now, improve, and try and push more revenue through that product. What's happening is you're having that conversational, so you're just having a chat with seeing Claude like a marketer, as opposed to, I think everyone can agree, GA4 is a tricky platform to navigate. It can be buggy, and it can just be a headache to use. But instead of that, you can just have a chat. You can even have it plugged into your phone where you have your morning coffee and have that conversation. So one sort of mindset I'd say to take away from this talk today is treating your store like a database of your product data, collection data, data of how customers engage with your website, and seeing how you can more specifically in product pages improve that. Whether you sell 10 products, 100 products, 5,000 products, you need to start looking at what Google LLMs are picking up from your product pages, or else you risk that chance of being left behind by competitors who are actively feeding the right data into products, which we're going to look at in a moment. So again, just a quick overview. So product pages, how AI picks that up, and then who AI is recommended. Number one is where we're going to spend our time today looking at. So 10 tips now we'll dig into. So tip one being schema. So schema, for those that don't know, is just basically machine readable content and how Google LLMs understand certain information about your products. It can help with getting more visibility and help with CTR. Now, Shopify does a great job in creating that schema, but there's no reason why we can't go a level above and inject, different schema elements within that to build more relevance within schema. But my point here is what we're looking at is finding holes, us versus competitors. Put simply, you take your schema, you take your top 3 competitors, you export their schema, you put that into a tool like Claude, and you'll say, okay, cross compare my schema versus theirs. what are we missing, what entities are we missing, what attributes are we missing around the product. If it's a hoodie, what are we missing around describing that hoodie? Is there certain shipping days? Do we find one competitor stands way above all three of us just by how good their schema is? And then there's a workflow to say, right, we need to work on this because this can be an injection site. If we sell 1,000 products, we can increase the relevance of 1,000 products with just a few lines of code injected into that schema. So don't sleep on schema. It will help. A good way to look at is Google Merchant Center as well to understand how well your schema is performing. What I'll find with every brand that I work with, there's usually areas within Google Merchant Center where we can come in and improve that pretty quick. So tip 2 is we're getting smarter now with products. If you have 10 products, by all means, go and get that done in the next hour, update them products. But we're starting to look at, again, like your products like a database. So if my client has 500 products, I will use maybe a Shopify app and export all that product data. Now, anyone that works with an e-commerce brand, you'll know that there's no silver bullet. So if I update 500 products, that doesn't mean 500 products are going to get 500 pages worth of traffic overnight. What happens is we create loops. So loops where I'll export them, say a theme. So if we sell, for example, candles, I'll export the candle theme, I'll update them, I'll pull the description, I'll update the category meta fields in Shopify to build more relevance around that candles, the sizing, the colors, the essence, what's it's giving, or what area is it for? Is it for kitchen? Is it for living room? Build that relevance, load that back in. If you want to go more aggressively, you can say, right, in 7 days, what's been the output from that update? Or you can do in 14 days, 21 days, 30 days. So you're constantly testing. And what this gives you ability to do is test at scale. Because with any store, it could be Nike, it could be Amazon, you could update every single one of your products. Again, you're not going to get clicks to every single one of them. What you're trying to do is refine more and more. When we updated that candle theme, them 100 products there, 50 of them got more impressions, 30 of them got more clicks. Okay, we can go deeper for them ones that didn't get as many impressions, and rinse and repeat across. So you're creating time loops to export your product data and update in bulk. One of the pain with this is when I work with brands and it can take 4 weeks to say update a title tag with 3 products, and it's like look at this workflow compared to the blocker that you're putting in. This is potentially what your competitors are doing, and they're getting that more opportunity to win clicks and revenue. So show this to your clients or your e-commerce team and explain this. So tip 3 of 10 is your attributes and ICP, ideal client profile injection, and showing what your product does and not just letting Google guess. So for example, we've got 2 products here. So I'm working with a nutrition brand at the moment. High quality creatine, this is one brand, and then the other brand shows, type, use case, it benefits your strength. You're going to be able to lift 100 key deadlift, press, CrossFit. You're going to be able to nail all the workouts. High rocks, you're going to get a sub 1 hour. So you're giving more depth for that powder fast mix. This is being pulled into your schema, and you inject this onto the front page as well. Again, you can do this with the step we just spoke about of bulk updating all your products and building more relevance into your product pages. So you imagine you do this for 1 page, and then you do that for 10, 100, 500, 1,000 pages. How much more relevance are you going to have across your full product catalog? You're going to give more visibility to win more clicks, to win more customers. So this is the power of using AI to be able to understand that data at scale. You're not going in exporting 1,000 products and trying to manually review them yourself, using AI to parse that data and understand what your products are about. Tip 4, review audits. So this is just an example with Reddit here. So the first talk, you spoke about messaging and building a community. So don't see, this is not a hack to say, get this content on page for people talking about it. It becomes your messaging. It becomes your messaging on your product pages, within your external marketing, with your internal marketing, with your email list. And what you're doing is trying to understand what people are saying about your products or your product niche, product catalog. And you're building that messaging. So what I like to do is scrape Reddit, scrape our own reviews and scrape competitor reviews, and then let AI compare all that data and then build out a use case to say, here's what people are saying about this product. Here's what they're struggling with. Here's what they love about it. For example, you sell skin and you find 70% of your reviews are about it's it's great for sensitive skin, but you don't mention that on your product page. Okay, well, that becomes a core theme to say, actually, it's for sensitive skin, and we need to mention that, how it helps sensitive skin, why, the materials that we use, what you expect to get within 14 days. And it becomes a clear messaging just by you understanding your reviews, rather than just leaving it at the bottom of your product page and having no sync between what's in your product and what's on your product page. So you're creating that internal connection. And Google, I've tested this myself, they're actually looking at your reviews. You can go to GPT, Gemini, ask them about a competitor, and they'll pull up reviews because they're picking out that extract of data from there. Reddit is obviously one of the top cited websites for content, so it's making sure that you're answering them customer questions. Tip 5 of 10, internal linking is basically the bloodlines of your website. It's still a gold mine when done right. It's still an underrated action that's being done on e-commerce websites. So when we go to a website, we can pretty much agree that most pages just link to 5 bestsellers at the bottom of the page, and that's rinse and repeated across 100 to 200 pages. What personally I like to do is to export the data. So I'll break that into products, collections, articles, and then I'll use, I don't want to get really technical and say vector embeds, but I'm going to say it. It's to basically understand the relationship between your pages, because you want to group relationships. AI LLMs are not looking for just all this wild content. They're looking for closely related customer journey content. And that's what you're doing here. You're stitching pages together. Why are you doing this? Because it's going to build relevance for your search strategy, but it's also going to help conversions as well. So export your data, use AI to say, group these products together, okay? Group the relationships together. And then, because what you might find is, say, for example, you sell candles and then you sell rugs. A candle might match a rug and you might not put them together, but the attributes on the page and the descriptions closely matches them when we look at externally with AI. So it becomes an opportunity then for you to test. Again, you're testing because none of this is silver bullets. You're testing the relationships between them pages. What you might find is you put together a gold mine and people are actively putting through them and converting. So on this one, using AI just to export your product data and build relationships, but you can do it with collections as well and content. Tip 6 of 10, intent over keywords. So intent, there's an ongoing debate on LinkedIn about you can't track intent. There's no real data to say what intent is. I do say that. I agree in some fashion, but if you go to Google and you type in a keyword, it can pretty much guess your intent, or it'll show you closely related. However, one sort of framework I found is to look at your paid search keywords around a product and look at your organic search keywords around a product. And then what you're going to do then is use AI to mash them together and say, what is the core theme of this? If we're spending 5K a month on driving traffic to the product page, here's our top 50 keywords, for example, the organic search keywords that's winning traffic. What is the intent of these keywords that are closely related? And then what happens then is it becomes your messaging on the page to make sure that you're matching what paid searches is you're paying for and the organic side as well. So it becomes part of your messaging, but it can also become part of your marketing as well. So if you're doing paid ads, again, you're doing email, you're doing organic socials, you're building the relevance through them products by understanding the intent, because the intent is, it goes back to that couple of slides back where you're building, not just creatine, it's creatine for what answer are you trying to give? And this is what LLMs are looking for. They're looking for you to create an answer engine. So not just a comparison engine, but an answer engine in terms of what people are looking for. So the more in depth, and I don't mean creating loads of content on your product page, but the more relevance of what your customers are searching, the more opportunity you're going to get to win that customer. So tip 7 of 10, using comparison. So comparison is what people are searching for. We're always going to compare products, whether you're buying a sofa, a fridge, some new running shoes, you're buying a flight. You're always going to compare against another brand, or you're always going to compare internally against products. Personally, I'm looking for a new pair of trainers at the moment, some runners, and I'm cross-comparing like 3, and I've not made my mind up yet. But if you can do that on your product pages internally, you're going to overnight help customers. So what you don't want is a customer bouncing away from your website and trying to get that comparison from another external source, a AI or a competitor. So what you're doing is you're building that relevance on your product pages. What I would suggest is to try and to do this per theme or product catalog. So you're doing it, for example, again, candles, or it's a fitness niche, you're doing it for protein, you're doing it for creatine, all the different sections, and you're getting really granular in terms of the intent of that section of your product pages. I'll go over how to do this in a moment, but what you're doing is, again, building that relevance into your product pages and just trying to not leave them blank. You're trying to keep people on your page and help LLMs understand what your product pages are about. Tip 8 of 10, this is probably a whole talk on its own, is your taxonomy of your website. So this is going to make or break how you get search traffic, and how Google LLMs understand what your website is about. The most simplest way I can say to do this is to export your product catalog, your Shopify, run that in Claude. You don't have to get really technical to start with, and just understand, ask it, is this taxonomy correct for our niche? So again, if you're in the fitness niche, you're asking it, is it right for what we're trying to sell? You sell it your core themes, creatine, protein, etc. And then you ask it for missing attributes, product relationships, and trying to understand what is missing off your brand. And what it'll do is give you ideas on taxonomy. So taxonomy fields are public. You can get Shopify's actual official taxonomy documents. Google will give you advice on that as well. So you can use that information to improve your overall taxonomy. Again, it's not just going to improve search, but it's going to improve your conversions. If you can improve your taxonomy, you're going to improve how people use your website, how they search for your product catalog, and how they make a conversion. So tip 9 of 10 is one of my favorites, is just building out custom sections for your website. So user experience has never been easier to build on product pages now, on collection pages. So traffic is getting expensive. When we do paid side, organic, you might see volatility with clicks coming in from organic. But what you have control is what you put on your product pages. And what you can do now is start to build new blocks in. So you don't need to wait for example, for a developer. So Shopify has a Sidekick to do that. But personally, I like to use Claude, and I'll give it information about who we are. I'll take screenshots of our product, our branding, give it context about our own brand. And then I'll build custom sections. And again, what I'm doing is testing. So I'll put them onto product pages. I'll recommend to clients, this is how it should look. And then clients will say, right, yes or no, can you change that? And, in one day, I can build out a full new high UX quality product page just by giving these prompts and trying to build more relevance into product pages, which is going to help dwell time, what Google's looking at. It's going to help on-page CTR, so how customers move through your pages. But more importantly, it's going to help conversions as well. So go and look at some of the, the top players in your niche, or look at brands like Huel, etc., and look at what they're doing on their product pages. Take that for inspiration, screenshots, and you can build out your own custom sections as well. And 10 out of 10. So you've probably all seen it on LinkedIn, but ChatGPT just launched the new image update, I think like 48 hours ago. And the quality is insane in terms of what you can do. So, not to say designers are obsolete now. However, rather than wait for that official design from a designer, there's no reason why you can't go and update your visuals now across your website and build a better UX into your product pages. So I've watched so many heat maps, and I've watched how your customers engage with product pages. And it surprises me how much they look for images. I question why they're looking for it, why they're scrolling through. I've seen it on fragrance brands, I've seen it on fitness brands, on apparel brands, and they're just clicking through. So you have full customization over that now, and the quality of what they're putting out is insane. So there's no reason why you can't test that and update it. You can give sizing, you can test on mobile, you can test on desktop. So it just gives you that full power of having customization and improving product pages. But you'll see 99% of brands not doing any of this and just having one image, a short line description, and a buy button. When, from the last 10 tips, you can see how much information, how much depth, how much relevant, improve your UX, improving conversion rates just by actioning on them 10 tips. So the old approach was, I've been working with e-commerce brands now for over 10 years, was update title tag, put some keywords in, and hope, look at rankings. Now we're seeing it as like a database. So you're taking that data from your product pages, you're updating it, you're building relevance in, you're creating test loops, so 14, 21 days, 30 days, and then you're building on top of that. So it's not silver bullets, you're doing constant iterations to improve your overall store. Again, treating your product catalog like database or structured attributes. It's going to take verify, it's going to help Google, it's going to help your shopping. Semantic content, in simply, it's just relationships between your products. Social proof is user-generated content, what people are saying about your products, what they're saying about your brand, good or bad. If it is bad, I would say you answer that and not just ignore it. Good, again, answering it and building that into your brand's messaging. And then schema quality as well, which falls in line with attributes. The future of e-commerce, nobody knows. However, AI agents are heavily being pushed by OpenAI, by Google, by Shopify. So what you hear, instead of just waiting around for that to happen, you're getting your product pages ready, you're getting your e-commerce brand ready, and you're not just waiting for this to happen overnight, because it is happening, and you're getting your pages ready, getting your brand ready. Thank you, and I hope it helps. Happy converting.
So guys, feel free to follow Luis on the LinkedIn. We have a few minutes for the questions. So the first question here is, what AI tools would you recommend? Which is, I assume that's a Claude. What's your AI budget when, if we're talking about doing this optimization? How much is approximately cost with the Claude or any other AI tool?
So Claude, I think it was yesterday or today, they just updated the pricing. So Anthropic, which I'm not happy about. It seems like they've pulled the rug under everyone there and updated the pricing. But to be honest, I put quite a bit of my money into testing these just to try and stay ahead. It's a funny one because I did one the other day for making content with creating videos, and then I thought, why am I doing this? It's not benefiting me. I've just watched some YouTube videos and I've started making these like cool videos, and I thought it's not benefiting what I'm doing. So Lovable, again, I put money into testing that, create some really cool sites, and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm not using it in any way. So you don't need to spend more than £100 per month, to be honest, when you look at Claude and what you can do with that.
So one question here, are those suggestions transferable to B2B e-commerce? And there is one question, is that Sora what you are talking about? Two questions.
For B2B, absolutely. What you're doing with all of this is trying to build a story from data. So you're trying to understand the relevance of what's happening with revenue, how you're winning customers, and how you can make better decisions to win more customers or improve the revenue from the customers that are currently coming on your website. So there's no reason why it can't happen within B2B. I've worked with B2B websites a lot. So you can take this same framework of understanding the data around the pages, around your own marketing, and then building that into a strategy. One of the sort of key takeaways from this is you have this opportunity now as a marketeer to really update your skill stack and give brands a lot more. So if I hook all this into a brand, an SEO shouldn't be really saying, I can see X, Y, and Z in your paid data, but I can go in and have that because I can have chats with it, and I can say, from patterns, what I've seen with these other brands, I can see an opportunity in your Google ads. There's an opportunity of what your paid team are doing with this landing page on your website. I can see the dwell time, where they're dropping off. And you can give that advice to brands and really try and help them. You're not just a silo marketer now. You have an opportunity to 10x what you're giving to a brand. And at the end of the day, if you can give them more results, you're going to be held in high regard, and it's going to help your career.
Probably the last question here. We have White Press as co-organizers that's basically handle the link building. How important link building right now for the SEO or for AI? Do we need to do it?
Yes. I'm actually back on White Press now, getting some links myself, just because of links. I always say, an e-commerce website is sort of the last thing I look at, but with everything that's happening with citations, like overnight, you can pick up some really cool citations of what LLMs think about your brand, and you're not just doing that. you're building your message. If you're struggling to build your brand's message, there's no reason why you can't go and feed these LLMs information about the brand, what the brand does. Again, with brands, they'll do a product launch, not do much about it, and nothing will happen, and the product will just sit in page 5 of pagination. But we can go and create some really cool reviews and get them put on news websites, etc. That's going to feed their LLMs and stuff.